Right. In the late 1990s, the company Easy Wood Tools introduced to the wood turning market carbide tipped tools. Since then, several other companies introduced their own version of the same tools. So let me show you what these tools look like. There were two square tip tools, one large and one small. Okay. And then another set of round tip tools, one large and one small. And then diamond shaped tools, again one large and one small. Several years later, the company added to this inventory a set of 3 hollowing tools. Let's do it in 2 rounds. 2 curved tools, of different angles, and 1 straight tool. All right. Even later, another even smaller square tool was added. Here it is. The approximate cost in Canada of these tools were from around $75 to $150. Aside from the obvious claim made by the company that these are excellent working tools, the main claim in favor of these tools made by the company was that these tools do not need sharpening. Unfortunately, the claim turned out to be incorrect. It is likely that the argument underlying the above claim by the company was based on the fact that the tips of all these tools could be taken off the base and handle, and a new tip could be mounted once again. The approximate cost of the tips was about $12 to $17. Thus, we assume that the argument of the company was based on the assumption that one could install a new tip at relatively low costs instead of getting involved in sharpening. The current presentation is based on the assumption that most ordinary wood turners would prefer to sharpen their tips rather than purchase new tips every time when a tip became dull. We would like to point out right at the start that these tools, their quality and effectiveness became controversial soon after their appearance on the market. I initially saw the tools at Lee Valley. I became interested in these tools probably as a result of the fact that shortly before the appearance of these tools, I spent some time with an excellent Israeli wood turner, his name is Gabi Ma'anit, who argued strongly and repeatedly that scraper tools are better than cutters. Regardless of whether was true or not, I was very impressed with the quality of the turn pieces that this fellow produced while using strictly only scrapers. I think that this triggered my interest in these new tipped scrapers. Shortly after I started to use the first set of tip tools, for reasons that were not and still are not clear to me, I was asked to do a small demonstration at Lee Valley of the usage of the tools. I did. Some 10 people came to the demonstration, and I believe that I managed to convince at least some of them that these are good tools. Somewhat later, our guild had a demonstration given by a well-known turner, Jimmy Clues, who, in the context of his demonstration, argued quite clearly that these tools are totally useless. I was puzzled by this claim, but said nothing at the time, since I clearly did not consider myself anywhere near the competence and excellence of Jimmy. However, a few months afterwards, I saw in the British Wood Turning magazine an article or a notice that Jimmy was now selling these very tools that he initially dismissed. Strange. However, the debate about the usefulness of the tools continued, and one could find echoes of it even these days. After having used these tools on a regular basis during the past 8 years, I would like, before we go any further, to state that I consider these tools very good, useful, and in some turning tasks better than most other tools in the turning inventory. Before going any further with the demonstration and discussion, we would like to dispense with one of the first controversial issues. Can these tools be sharpened? Is the sharpening process very difficult? And are the sharpening results justifies the efforts invested in the sharpening process? I discussed this project almost right from the beginning with my friend and colleague Don Moore. Since I consider Don a first-rate sharpener, and certainly a better sharpener than I am, I have asked him to join me in this project and undertake the demonstration of sharpening. So before going any further, Don will take over and demonstrate some sharpening.
Thank you very much, Zalman. It was a while back when I was over visiting Zalman in his shop one day, and he was actually replacing a tip on one of these tools. And I noticed a slew of used tools, tips, and I asked him, I said, like, what are you doing? He said, well, you have to buy a new one and replace it. And anyway, I guess the look on my face of shock and horror, he asked me, he said, well, can you sharpen them? I said, well, I don't know, but I'll give it a try. And that again, sharpening, it brought me back to when I first started turning. And a late friend of mine, Warman Castle, mentioned to me in the beginning, he said, if you want to be a good turner, he said, the first thing you have to learn is how to sharpen your tools properly. And he said, if you really want to advance, he said, in turning, he said, you have to master sharpening. And he said it'll be safer for you, it'll be easier for you, and you'll advance yourself. You'll open up your envelope a lot more because you're comfortable and confident in what you're doing. You know what's going to happen. It's the same as sharpening scissors. So you know how the scissors work. A knife, an axe, they all sharpen differently. So this here is probably the simplest thing I've ever seen in my life, and it's the way I did it, and I do it. I don't use the tools, but I sharpen them, resharpen them for Zalman. It's definitely not the only way to do it, and it's probably not the proper way to do it, but it's the way I do it. So, you're going to need a few pieces of equipment, material. This here is the cleaning liquid, some lapping compound, fluid they call it. This is the card, diamond card, two-sided diamond card I use. It's 300, 600. And I have an array of used bits here. I have a trusty black marker. It's a right-handed model that I use today. It's not the left-handed, the expensive one. We're using the cheap right-handed model. And I use an Allen key, and I'll explain what I use that for. And I have a tool that you can put an edge of burr on the scrapers and that. And if you really want to get a sharp edge, you can use this. And the only other thing you need is a rag. Now, the cost of this, the diamond stone, the liquid, the cleaner, it's probably $100. So you have to decide if it's worth it for you to make this investment. If you're not going to use it very often, it's probably, you could probably spend your $100 on the new bits and not bother with this. If you're going to be like Zalman, and it's 75% of his production is using these tools, this is a cheap investment. So I'll just continue to explain how I approached it. These pieces are basically, like let's say the little square one. It's 4 edges, and as Zalman explained, you rotate from edge to edge, and you got your new edge. The other thing that they have on this is one of these corners. I don't know if Dave can see that, but on this top corner, yeah. So there's in the corner, you'll see a little indication where the starting point is. So this edge up here, if you were starting here, and you're going to rotate it, rotate it, rotate it. Then the 4th rotation, you'll be back to that tip again, and that tip is to tell you that you've made the complete rotation. It's time to either change the tip or to sharpen it. And you'll find the same thing on the round ones. There'll be an indication somewhere on the round ones that shows you where you're starting, and it's the same idea. When you turn it, you'll know when you've made a complete 360-degree turn. So we're gonna end up removing these tips over a period of time. Every time we sharpen it, we're going to remove that surface. So what I recommend you do is on the back side of the tool, the cutter, you take a black marker, this trusty black marker that we use for everything, and you just put an indication on the tip on there, and on the round one on the back side. Of course, we're never going to touch the back side again. So then, now can you see the tip?
There we go. Yep, got it.
So that black mark, when you make your 360-degree turn, again, it's going to tell you that you've used the whole surface. Probably the inability to get a good shavings coming off is also going to tell you that you've used the whole surface. But in any case, it allows you to know where you started. So to get like I said, you don't need many items to do this, or the way I did it anyhow. And just checking my notes. Yep, that's good. Now here's the process that I used. You take a little bit of the lapping fluid, and you only need a little dribble, but it's hard to get a little dribble to come out because this thing. So I put the lapping fluid on it. Use my trusty finger. I'll take one that's in bad shape. Now, this is something I know you can, actually when I first did this, I just used my finger to rotate it around. And I just found I couldn't get an even pressure all the time on it. So I went and I got an Allen key that has the universal end on it, and with the universal end on it, it allows me to put pressure on the piece, but it doesn't protrude through the tool, the bit. So I put the bit down, and I take this Allen key, and with the Allen key I'm able to make a real nice rotation, circular rotation, and I can keep a nice downward pressure on it. Now, yeah, you can use your finger and probably do the same thing. So I just want to show you what happens. The piece is starting to sharpen, and this diamond is plugging up with the material coming off of the tool, and that's why you need the cleaning tool. I use these in my shop for other purposes, and often I have to put a cleaner, just a shot of cleaner on it.
So let me just, okay.
A little squirt of cleaner on it, work it in, and then that's why you need this trusty old rag. You should leave it on for a minute, to be honest with you, to let it penetrate, but it wasn't very deep in there, so again, you can see that what happens is it cleans that card out. It takes all the grit out. So it's the same as any other device that you use in your shop for sharpening. If you have a diamond wheel, it still gets impregnated, and you can clean it with this, and it just improves it for you. Okay, so now I'll put another little shot of the liquid, and that just lubricates the surface between the two pieces of metal, and it just allows it to sharpen a lot better and a lot easier for you. So whether you're doing the square one or the round one, I use this Allen key. If I'm going to use one of these smaller ones, of course I have to get the appropriate Allen key that's going to fit that one. If you want one that's going to go in a little bit, but stand up for you. So that's after 2 quick sharpens. I would probably do it a 3rd time just to be sure it's absolutely done. And if you want, you can, it's really hard to put the black marker on, because as soon as you put it in the liquid, of course, it's going to dilute the black marker. So you just have to rotate it, and you can see the way the light captures the sheen in different areas. You'll know right away if you've missed a spot. And on the edge of it, if you really want, like I use a burr with most things that I do, most tools that I do, scrapers. And if you want it, when the tool's back on, the bit's back on the tool, you can take one of these hones and you can just give it a rub, and it'll put the little edge on it, and it'll be really, really sharp. But other than that, I think the biggest decision is whether it's financially advantageous to you to do this, or to just continue buying them. But I know they're sold in a number of different places now. I believe Richard also sells them from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. He'll get a group of them. He'll buy them in bulk and give you an opportunity to buy them at a better price. But that's about it. And again, later on, when we do this in Zoom, Maureen's probably laughing her head off when I mention I'm going to be doing Zoom, because she said I'm always so slow. But anyhow, when we do the Zoom, and if you have questions at that time, then yeah, I'll try to answer whatever I can.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, now that we are done with the process of sharpening, let's do some turning. Once again, before starting the turning, I want to remind everybody that all of these tools, without exception, are scrapers. I also would like to remind you a point that I previously made, and that is that aside from the general usefulness of these tools, like any other turning tools, they differ in their usefulness. My view is that they are particularly useful and good for turning pieces with thin walls. Since most of the pieces that I do are thin-walled pieces, naturally the appeal of these tools to me stemmed to a large extent from this characteristic of the tools. Now that the turning job is going to start, we will start from the outside, as we usually do. First of all, put a foot on and around the outside. Okay, so I'm using the diamond tool first. Okay, and then comes this square. So we already have a foot that you can see that you can work with the flat side of the tip and with the edge of the tip. Depends what you want to do. What is that?
So you might as well sharpen it while I got it out.
Okay.
Oh, you need it right now, or?
The what? The edge? No, because I can work with the big one. Okay, Don?
Yeah.
Okay. Dave?
Yep. Good.
Okay. going to start to round it, to round the outside.
Yep.
Okay, just use this.
I didn't change the face of it.
What?
I didn't change the face of
No,
it.
no, it's fine. But I can use the,
Not a big one?
yeah, but also I can use the,
You need the wrench.
wrench. Oh, yeah, it's right here. Okay, so now we take it off. The outside is done. Right, so now okay. Well,
Yeah.
can you see it here?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Here?
Mm-hmm. Good.
Okay. I'm taking the faceplate and now putting the we're remounting the okay. So now we're doing the hollowing. So the first step is the same thing. I'm using the diamond edge just to create the boundaries of the wall, and then we'll hollow it. We need to
Change it.
where is the start? So the trick is that there are some people who start from the center and work to the edge. I work, and that's an advantage for thin-walled, is to start from the outside, from the wall, and work to the center.
Nice to see. Okay, have a good
Okay.
day. Thank you as well. Bye for now.
We're already more than half in. basically we now have to finish the rounded bottom. So to do that, I'm going to use the circular tool.
Okay, let's stop there for a second.
Okay?
So you switch back to the diamond point tool now, right?
Just to create the shape of the round, and then I'll finish it. Okay, now I'm going into the rounded tool.
Okay.
Well, we're done.
So here we're going to zoom in on the piece of work, and we can see that the walls are quite straight there. And the finish is adequate for sanding at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And we should say that this is an end-grained bowl that we're cutting
Yes.
here. And I'm wondering, Zalman, if you can just comment on how well it works on face grain work.
My bias is that it works better on face grain.
Okay.
But we worked with what we had here, and there are people, very good turners who prefer end grain. I work with everything, but I prefer face grain. The turning job is complete. I would like to make two closing comments. Are there any seemingly obvious limitations to these tools? I think that the most obvious limitation is that they are particularly good for small and medium-sized projects. In particular, the following set of tools are not very good for the turning of large, hollowed pieces. Second comment, can a reasonably productive turner rely exclusively on the use of these tools? My response is negative. That is, I can see some turners who are specific in what they turn, use only carbide tip tools. However, I would not recommend it to turners who are broader in their approach to turning. That's it. Any questions?
I'd like to make one more comment before we conclude for today. I just want to let you know that every day I am so inspired by my friend and colleague Zalman. If I ever reached the age of 86 years of age, I said I would really be impressed if I could come out to my shop every day. And I think this is a wonderful attribute to have, and I'm just so honored to be his friend and to be able to spend time with him. Anyhow, that's all I want to say in my closing comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I am flattered. I am really flattered, Don.
And thank you so much, Zalman, for this.